Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining this webinar, the James Beard Foundation COVID-19 in our industry webinar. We have a lot of information to get through in a very short amount of time. So we're going to go kind of as quickly as we can through some of this introductory items so that we can really get to the interesting stuff, really why folks are joining. So how this webinar is going to work, my name is Ashley Kosiak and I'm the Impact Program Manager. I'm going to quickly overview how this works and then I'll also be facilitating some questions at the end. This webinar is being recorded, so you'll be able to share it with your networks afterwards, and you'll receive a link to this webinar recording once it is over. As again, we'll save questions for the end. How we'll manage questions is at any time throughout the webinar, you'll be able to write in questions, send them to me over chat. We will try to get as many questions as we can, and whatever questions we're not able to answer during the time of the webinar, we'll try to do some follow-up emails with you afterwards. So if you're not able to get your question answered now, we'll do our best to answer them in the future or direct you to some resources where you might be able to find some answers. We are having, if you're having any technical difficulties, we're hearing that not just GoToWebinar, but other video conferencing tools like Zoom and similar tools are experiencing a lot of heavy use right now. So if you are experiencing technical difficulties, that's likely the situation. But if you, again, send us a little chat message, we'll do what we can to triage it. But also recognizing that we have some overloaded tech systems and it might not always be possible, but we'll do our best. All right, and so I'm going to hand this over to Katherine. I believe you're gonna kick us off, and then Claire as well. Is that correct?
Yeah. Hi, this is Katherine Miller at the James Beard Foundation. We are rapidly adding people to this webinar. So if you are having technical difficulties or we apologize. Did I just, sorry. We had an overwhelming response to this webinar today for 3,000 people. And so bear with us. Ashley is going to have everybody on mute, all of the various speakers and all of the participants, and we'll take questions towards the end. I just want to introduce my name is Katherine Miller. I'm the Vice President of Impact at the Foundation. I want to introduce our CEO, Claire Reichenbach, who is going to lay out some things for you, and then we're going to get to the meat of this webinar. Claire.
Thank you, Katherine, and thank you so much, everybody, for joining us on this call this morning. At this critical and most difficult of times, at the James Beard Foundation, our core purpose is to support the health of the restaurant industry and the food system. And we know that our community is uniquely vulnerable right now. We are with the industry, and indeed we are of the industry. We're in the same boat. Just over the last week, we've made some very difficult decisions ourselves in terms of closing the James Beard House for now, postponing the awards, postponing our events around the country, and we're doing everything we possibly can to prioritize public health and safety. But it's impacting every element of our operations, financing, staffing, but we are committed to continue with our mission to support this industry. So as of now, we are directing our efforts and focus to help you, our community, to galvanize the support needed to see the industry through this time of crisis. This community is always the first to give back, the first to volunteer to help others in an emergency, but now the help is needed here. So we at the Foundation are committed to help coordinate and mobilize efforts and resources that's needed immediately throughout this crisis, and critically when the pandemic is over and we're in recovery and rebuild mode. So today's call will be the first of many. Although we can't come together in person at the moment, we want to stay in close contact and foster a sense of unity as we move through this together. So thank you for joining us this morning, and we will be continuing these over the weeks to come. Thank you. Back over to you, Katherine.
Thank you. Thank you so much. It's really important at this time that we do all have a sense of unity and a sense of purpose and also some direction. And we have been so pleased to see how this community has responded so quickly. We know that everybody is reacting to ever-changing guidelines at the state and federal level, requirements by your states. We're now up to 14, at least 14 states, at least 14 states. Sorry, I'm just getting directions while I'm on. So we're getting directions from at least 14 states that have either closed or limited operations, indications from the CDC and others to limit gatherings to 50 people to 10 people. And we know that all of you are pivoting in ways that you maybe never quite imagined: gift cards, to go, sidewalk delivery, other aspects of this. But one of the things that we've been most excited to see as this crisis has grown is the response from the chef community to help our communities and our most vulnerable, and also help our staffs, but also turn our attention to much needed policy advocacy at the state and federal level. We are so excited to have 3 folks from Chicago, including Jason Hammel from Lula Café, who really helped spearhead an immediate response by the Chicago restaurant community to advocate for additional resources and relief to Governor Pritzker. He has joined alongside with Joshua Kulp and Christine Cikowski from Honey Butter Fried Chicken, who have been part of that effort. Many of you around the industry have probably seen this on social media, videos from chefs and others really talking about the relief they need and how to do that. We feel like that state advocacy coupled with federal advocacy is going to be part of what we need right now to make sure that this industry is in the best position that it can be to reopen, to retain staff, to reopen, and to continue vibrantly contributing to our local economies. So I just want to invite Jason and Josh and Christine to talk a little bit about what they did in Chicago, how that has started, and any early response that they've gotten. Jason, Josh, Christine?
Hi, everybody.
Hi.
Hi, everyone.
Hello, everyone. I think, why don't we talk to Jason, because honestly, Christine and I have been very gladly looking to Jason for a lot of guidance here, and he has really stepped up to help lead the way here in Chicago with some of the thinking behind our response to the governor and to the state and to the city looking for help. So, you know, Jason, do you want to maybe talk
Sure.
with them about what you did?
I will. Probably all of us on this call, however many hundreds of thousands of people that are listening, have been calling their friends who are chefs and restaurant owners and bar owners and just trying to figure out, A, how to survive, but B, how to take care of our employees, who are our number one concern right now. And all these calls that I was making, you know, to people like Josh and Christine, it made me think that we needed to have some sort of consensus, because if we're going to start asking for things, well, first of all, we might not understand what we should be asking for and of whom. And we might ask for many things in disparate ways, and it could be like a cacophonous, like, you know, crowd of noise. So we called a meeting and had many of the, you know, the greatest restaurateurs, chefs, bar owners in the city to talk about what we were experiencing and what really we wanted to ask for in terms of help, because clearly none of us can survive this without some kind of help. And so the important thing was to craft a message and to be unified in the message. And even as we move forward, I'm looking for ways to take the energy that we created in that one meeting and synchronize social media effort and ask, how can we unify, consolidate, organize, and make our voice and our ask clear and to the right people. And so that's what I'm working on today and tomorrow, and that's what this call can help with. We are really focused on employees first in these days, and then we'll be focused on what kinds of business help will get us back on our feet.
And Josh and Christine, do you want to talk
Yeah,
a little bit about
I would
the calls to action that you have for the governor related to those employee protection?
Sure. Are you able to hear me?
What we were asking
Josh.
for is emergency unemployment
Sorry, everybody.
benefits.
It just kind of got a little scrambled.
Yep,
Go ahead, Josh.
Sure. I think the essential question for us, as
Oh, did we drop
business
Josh?
owners who honestly we're overwhelmed with the burden of having to decide if our employees would get paid and have health insurance. I'm talking. I don't know if you can hear me.
Josh, we can hear
Is that
you.
a
You
delay?
are a little muddled,
but we can hear you.
so maybe just start at the top.
Okay. So I think I was saying that, as a person who, happened to open a fried chicken restaurant, Christine and I were overwhelmed with the burden of having to decide if our employees would get paid or have health insurance this week and next week and into the future, and trying to balance that with health and safety of our customers and our team. And it really is just became this almost impossible decision for us to realize that we were the ones with the power to decide to close and cause 50 people to be out of work without having any guidance from the state. And that guidance is not just about safety, it's really guidance on what our team should do in the event of being out of work. And so, yeah, Jason started to mention it, but we really are asking, one of the biggest asks is that we really need to know that any workers who are seeing reduced hours or are out of work and unemployed completely can get emergency access to unemployment benefits. As we alluded to, or Jason alluded to, we're definitely thinking, trying to find that perfect balance between how do we take care of right now and the people that we love and work with right now, but also thinking about how we're going to survive the future. We want to be in business for another 10, 15, 20 years, and really thinking about how to balance those two things has put us in a very impossible spot, and I'm sure many of you are in that same spot.
Yeah, absolutely. And
In
I don't
terms
know,
of
Jason or Josh or
specific
Christine, if you want to talk
for the
about
governor, this is Jason, by the way, of the
what
governor.
you had to put together.
In terms of Sure. I think in terms of specific asks for government now in Illinois, our first priority was to ask for fast track unemployment benefits so our workers would be assured of not having to go through a arduous process and to get help right away. But right now I'm still collecting ideas and information about what it is that will help us, both short term and long term. So I feel like we are in the discovery phase right now.
Yeah, us too, here at the Beard Foundation. That's a good moment to, one, I hope that, I know there's some technical difficulties, and so I apologize. We'll make the audio available of this, which I think will be super useful to folks if you are having trouble logging in or hearing. So I just want to take a pause and acknowledge that with a number of people trying to log in at the same time and probably a national work from home movement. I know that the technical piece of this has been a little spotty for some, so just quick apology for that. And just also know that we'll provide the audio recording post this. The other thing, it's also a good pause for Jason and Josh and Christine from when they put together this effort, taking stock of what the community needed. If you have not seen it yet, I would encourage everybody on this call to fill out an industry survey that we at the James Beard have put together. James Beard Foundation have put together. It's anonymous for the industry to sort of indicate the types of relief and the types of things that you all might need. So, this is a nice time to plug that. Just one last thing, Jason and Josh and Christine, if you want to talk a little bit about the tools and the tactics. I know some people have seen your messages on social media, on Instagram, the videos, but one of the things that we want to encourage people to do is to sort of, in some ways, replicate what you're doing in Chicago. We're seeing what you guys have done in Chicago also take root in California, in Austin, in Georgia, in Minneapolis, in Wisconsin, in Washington, D.C. And so for those on the call who are considering these types of approaches to their governors, just a little bit maybe more about the types of tactics and sort of what you did and any early responses that you're getting either from the media, from other chefs, or even from the legislature.
You can talk a little bit about the messaging.
Sure.
I'll take this.
Letter on our behalf. I think that we haven't yet had any
Chicago and agreed upon it.
Christine, why don't you go ahead, and then Jason will follow up. Sorry.
I'm just going to discuss the tactics for sending it out. I think we had decided as a group that we needed to share the same message, the same graphics, and the same format to have the most impact. So we had decided, we were so grateful that Stephanie Izzard's social media team was able to put together slides for us. Jason wrote the letter and we all agreed upon it in advance, and also the caption that we were going to post together. And then we had also agreed to provide some individualness to it, that we would each read the letter or the caption in our own voices and put it on video. So we did have a personal aspect to it, but we were all delivering the exact same message with the same graphics. And I think that sort of critical mass was effective in getting our message across. I don't think it would have been as effective if we had all posted individual images, individual messages. Like, it was more like a sum of its parts tactic, and I think it was very effective.
Yeah. And Jason or Josh, did you want to add to that?
So to follow up with that, we have not yet seen any immediate response. But I think what we will do is continue to gather our voice in this collective way, basically speaking a unified message, but we're going to add detail and further substance to that message so that the ask is clear and work together. One thing I would note is that, we are a strong community in Chicago and the chef community, but I know in cities and towns across America, the community is very strong, and that's because it's a tough business, and we all sort of know that, and we gather together in sympathy, and your network is already strong in your community. At this point, it might not be wise to call large, public meetings, of course, but online, you can gather these friends and craft your own message to your own senators, governors, mayors, and whomever you think would be of help. So I highly recommend reaching out to that network and formalizing it. I think the act of formalizing this network, saying that this is the group that we're going to work with, and getting behind a single unified message was paramount in this in this movement?
Yeah, no, it's actually such a powerful thing to see a group of people come together, agree on a common message, agree on common tactics. And we can, here at James Beard Foundation, we've been collecting examples like the Chicago example, like examples from all over the city, all over the country where chefs have been doing this, and we'll have those available for you all for reference, and if you need help. I would love to just move over to the federal side and lay a little context of this. Thank you so much, Jason and Josh and Christine. And also thank you for making yourselves available to folks for advice or additional resources that people might need. It's really, once again, an amazing testament to the chef community to see what's taken place in Chicago and how that can be a learning and an example for chef communities around the country. We are looking to do this at the federal level as well. As many of you know, we have our Chefs Boot Camp for Policy and Change and have trained advocates all over the country. So we're hoping to activate and mobilize that community as well as the larger restaurant and hospitality community to make sure that this community is not lost in the negotiations related to the emergency relief measures that are quickly moving past the House on Saturday and quickly moving through the Senate, and then the additional economic stimulus bills that will be considered over the coming days and weeks and into the foreseeable future. We're really pleased to have on our team at the James Beard Foundation, Tricia Griffin. She is one of the principals of the NBG, a all-female-led lobbying and policy advisory firm in Washington, D.C. They work across the food system with nonprofits from all walks, all parts of our food system, from farmers to chefs to nutrition advocates. And so we're really pleased to have Tricia on our team, and she's going to give you some insight into the federal policy side, and then I'll come back and we'll talk a little bit more about some of the advocacy side and some of the things that we're going to need for you all to do. Tricia. We have a Tricia.
Hello, everybody. I'm thinking of you out there, and we're. Nope, I'm not. Can you hear me? Hello.
Now we can. Go ahead. It's just a lag, so we can hear you.
Me? Hello. Okay, great. All right. Hello, everybody. So I'm going to give you an update on the federal policy process and where we're at today. As some of you are probably following, there has been a tremendous amount of work happening in the last couple of days and week. We are about to hopefully pass the second emergency package that has been that was sent over from the House to the Senate. The Senate is in session and should be taking that up today. While nothing is pure in Washington, D.C., as we all know, this bill, the second bill, was an attempt to help the most vulnerable and most immediate needs, tackle the most immediate needs based off this tremendous public health and economic crisis. And doing that with the best of their ability with competing political interests, even in these trying times. So a couple of things that you may, again, have been seeing in the news that are included in this bill include unemployment insurance, a huge infusion of emergency unemployment benefits that will be pushed down to the states. There are provisions around paid sick leave, employment tax credits, and support for our hunger community through nutrition and food security programs, as well as testing resources for additional testing for the COVID-19. While some of it is very clear and direct, there is a need for ongoing interpretation of who is eligible for this and who is exempt from this. And we are doing that interpretation in real time and want to make sure that you have the right information as this policy gets finalized, which it has not yet been finalized, and how it's going to support all of you as it moves down to the state and the local community. We are committed, I am committed, along with the JBF team, to get the best information about these federal responses to this crisis and what it really means to you in real time, and what the lag and challenges will be around that, so that you are not looking for something that is continuing to, move through some paths. What is to come? As we speak, the Senate and the House are working on the next supplemental emergency bill, which we're calling the third bill right now. That will look much different than this first bill. That will be possibly over $800 billion proposal, with a focus on, again, all the things that we will continue to need to take care of on the public health front, but most importantly, or as importantly, the economic support for all folks that are struggling, from big industry to small business. So what we are doing and hearing right now is that the leadership of the Senate and House are really in control of this, along with the White House. But what I am attempting to do and will continue to do is make sure that the James Beard Foundation's voice, and this is vital, that the survey that you're doing, the sharing of information from your state efforts and relationships to the governors and the work that's happening there, I'm going to make sure that that gets brought up into the federal policy advocacy effort on behalf of the restaurant industry and small business industry. I really believe that and we've been in conversation with, some of the big organizations that are in direct line on your behalf, or have just controlled the space in Washington, D.C., and we're asking you to sit at the table with them to make sure that we're continuing to translate your needs in the swiftest, most appropriate way. So that is what is happening presently. We are also hearing that there will be an additional stimulus happening quickly after that. Timing of this third stimulus. There are a couple of major factors that are influencing that. One, the Senate is in session, the House is out of session. The House will be back next week. The Senate will work vigorously and remotely with the House leadership to get a package as close to final, which we know is challenging in these partisan times, even in these times. But the soonest that could probably happen, because the House is out of session, is next week. There is obviously grave concern for elders from the member of Congress community coming back and moving around, so that will be taken into account also. But we're hoping to see some version of this package within the next 5 to 10 days. When it will get passed, to be determined, but we'll be paying attention to it. What that means, though, is that this is the time to influence that policy, that third package. And so I will be working with the James Beard Foundation and with leadership from your community to make sure your voice is heard in this conversation. With that, I'm going to stop unless, Katherine, there's anything else that you want me to add.
No, Tricia, I think that was great. And I think, one of the things, both reiterating from what we heard from Jason and Josh and Christine, a little bit what we heard from Claire and from you, how important the chef and restaurateur voice is at this time. These conversations are moving rapidly at both the state and federal level. We are getting a lot of questions, and we knew that, and we don't, and I'm going to direct some folks to a variety of other resources as well. We're getting a lot of questions from small business owners on here about filing for unemployment or paying taxes or payroll taxes. We have put together resources on the James Beard Foundation website, and are updating those daily that people can look at. Every state and almost every municipality is different. So this is why we wanted to share with you an example of the successful sort of banding together and advocacy that's happening in a place like Chicago. It's really important for these conversations to be happening with a unified voice to your mayors and your governors and your state legislators and your congressmen and federal officials. So for those of you who are looking for technical advice on unemployment benefits, health insurance benefits, rent, those sorts of things, We are directing people to additional webinars and resources put on by experts in those fields. We would also direct you and have a state-by-state, we pulled all the state-by-state information on the Small Business Administration and the COVID response in your individual states, and we'll make that available after this call. So I just want to just continue to keep reiterating the need for the chef community in your cities and your states, and then federally to work together under, as Jason and Josh and Christine, under one message. That message may be a little different in Washington, D.C. than it is in Chicago or it is in Austin. And so we'll put, so just want to do that. I think there are a couple of things that I want to talk about related to the James Beard Foundation and some of the stuff that we're going to do and make available to you. And I'm going to once again apologize for the spotty audio and video on this call. Again, so much demand, and nothing like trying to do this with the entire nation from working at home. So thanks for your patience. What we have for you, and we'll send out after this call, we have a state-by-state list of all of your governors with telephone numbers, with Instagram and social media handles. We have suggested messaging modeled off various states and cities and what they're doing. We also, at the federal level, have all of the resources pulled from places like the National Restaurant Association and the National Federation of Independent Businesses. There are pages related to small business relief and related to COVID responses. So we will make those resources available immediately following this call. We are also putting together a toolkit for chefs around the country to use, highlighting some of the economic benefits of the chef and restaurant community. You are employing about 15 to 16% of the workforce in the US. You're responsible for nearly $1 trillion in spend every year. Your local magnifier is, for every dollar you spend, we're sort of sending 2 to 3 out in the local economies. So you are a necessary and important fabric for this, and we want to give you the tools to be able to say that to all of your elected officials as they are considering at a very rapid and fast pace the legislation that Tricia has highlighted. We're also going to ask everybody, if you aren't already, to follow and subscribe to our impact. Let us know at impact@jamesbeard.org so we can make sure that you're on our mailing list for continuous updates. We are also updating our website and our COVID response page daily with new resources, new suggested webinars. We are going to start building out a cohesive and sort of comprehensive approach to making sure that the chef and restaurant voice is not lost at this time within these relief efforts. And so one thing that I would love to call on all of you to do is, if you're interested in being, helping us lead those efforts in your local cities or local communities, please let us know. That way we can feed you into some other communications. As Jason and Josh and Christine said, very important that there be sort of leaders in each community doing this that can help mobilize the communities and be a central resource. So if you're interested in fulfilling that role in your local community, just ping us. A couple other things we're probably going to do in response to the technical difficulties of this webinar is re-record a couple of the pieces so that we can have those up on the website for continuous information. But again, we would direct you to the resources that we'll send out after this call, encourage you to get with your local chef community, and also help us spread the word nationally. Ashley, are there other questions that are related to the chef advocacy or things that are coming in there? We're also, oh, just one more thing that we're also going to do. We have started compiling, there are hundreds, if not thousands, of locally grown relief efforts that are already out there, everything from virtual tip jars to restaurant bonds to GoFundMe pages for workers around the country. Many of those folks have sent to us, and so we're going to start to compile that information so that it's in one place, but would really, so if you have information about those, please feel free to send them to us. So yeah, so other questions? There's a question that's come in about the states related to the Small Business Administration emergency loan provisions. So we can send out some information about the emergency loan provisions related to small business, but this is another place where your advocacy counts. The Small Business Administration actually has to get essentially a petition or a notice from each governor related to each county that is declared an emergency as part of the emergency relief zones. So those are very important, whether it's for you to make sure that your county is included in those gubernatorial requests. So we can send a link out after this call for information about that. We are not a technical legal organization at all, and so a lot of what we're pulling, but happy to share that link on the Small Business Administration that outlines the steps that governors must take in order for their states to qualify for the aid that has been made available. And it is county by county. So that it's a very important distinction to make sure that unless your governor does it, it has to be county by county. Other questions that have come through? I'm sure, I mean, we've got everybody on mute to sort of minimize.
Could you talk a little bit about
actually,
why? Yes, we have a lag, so I'm going to try to text you questions, but could you talk about why it's so important to focus on these issues right now and why advocacy is so important?
Of course, my favorite topic. So there are a couple of things that are happening. One is that as businesses have been shut down by either the state governments or increasingly under recommendations on the federal side, the president declared a state of emergency, which immediately freed up states to ask for additional funds. But every state has to ask for those and make the case as to what their state needs and who needs it most. And so at the state level, if you all are not asking in a cohesive way as a community of folks impacted by this national health crisis, then your governor may not know the extent to which the restaurant and hospitality industry needs relief, right? Sometimes we don't think that, we think that people see us, even if they don't see us, and they might not see us. So I would just encourage all of you to start looking into who your elected representatives are at the state and local level, and making sure that they know how important you and the restaurant community are to local farmers, local fishermen, feeding centers, local producers, and it helps to bring those people into this conversation as well, right? Knowing that you guys are in crisis, you should also know that, I'm sure you also know that farmers are in crisis and fishermen are in crisis. And so they are part of our greater food family, and they are also part of the advocacy efforts that we need. So, you know, this is just a time when you have, I know that you have so much else to think about in terms of the health and safety of your staff, the longevity of your businesses, how you provide the technical support for your staffs as they are going through layoffs. And this is one more thing that you need to sort of add to your list of things to do, but we here at the James Beard Foundation are here to help you do that. So please just let us know. But it is an incredibly important time. And at the federal level, it's incredibly important because every other industry is in there making the case for it, help and support related to an economic stimulus package or bailouts. And if we're not there too, we could be potentially ignored in that conversation. And so I would encourage all of us to think about how we can use our voice for change. Another question that's come in is around what people would like to do to lead other efforts in their communities. Related to emergency feeding or supporting the most vulnerable. We are going to do another webinar. We're going to learn from this one, but we are going to do another webinar or group call with hopefully both Share Our Strength and World Central Kitchen to talk about some of the efforts going on at the community-based level for those of you who have capacity and desire to work on that. If you would like to help in your communities lead the advocacy efforts and work with us on that, please just shoot us an email at impact@jamesbeard.org, and we'll take in all those incoming requests and come back to folks with what we're planning over the next couple of days. This is, again, all moving very quickly, and so appreciate everybody's patience with us as we put it together, but it's just a very, very important time for that type of work. So a couple of, just to reiterate a couple of things. One is that if you have technical questions related to loans, HR, et cetera, we've got a list of potential resources for you and some upcoming webinars that are sponsored by other organizations that we'll share with you. If you're interested in continuing your service to the community in terms of support for efforts like World Central Kitchen or Share Strength or other things, our emergency feeding, we will host a webinar with those groups probably next week, date and time to be determined. And then if you are interested in participating in the advocacy activities to help make sure that our industry is not sort of overlooked at either the state or the federal level, if you could email us at impact@jamesbeard.org. That way we can start to compile those names. And then if there are other resources that you want to share with us, if you are seeing emergency relief efforts in your community, if you're seeing advocacy efforts in your community, please just share with those with us at impact@jamesbeard.org too, and we will make sure that we update our COVID pages. Any other questions or things that people want us to address immediately? It looks like those were the two biggest buckets. Maybe one more just coming in. Our technical lab. Public message strategy. Yes, we will have a public message strategy. The toolkit that you're going to get today with some infographics and a sample letter and some instructions on what it's for, as discussed related to the federal advocacy side. Those will be common stats that we use to demonstrate the strength of the industry right now and why the industry is so important. And then we'll very quickly move to a public message strategy that everybody can use. If anybody wants to be part of that thought process, that think tank, please let me know. We are working with the National Restaurant Association. We have a call with them today. So we'll be hoping to coordinate more closely our efforts with them and with other national lobbying organizations that support small businesses. I've been watching with total awe in some cases, and just amazing support with those of you who are already working with your state restaurant association. I would encourage you, I know that for some chefs, the state-based NRA restaurant associations haven't always been, those always haven't been great relationships, but now is the time to work with your state NRA, your state restaurant associations on the outreach to governors, if you can. So I would encourage you to also touch base with them. But we are going to coordinate on the national level with a number of businesses related to number of lobbying and advocacy organizations related to small businesses and the hospitality community, including our friends and families in the event industry and the catering industry who are and in the farming community who are integral parts of our community food systems and also equally hard hit at this time. Any other questions? So I just really want to thank everybody for bearing with us through trying to hold a national webinar at a time when everybody's working from home. I know the lag and the audio have been a little spotty, but thanks for sticking with us. We had registrants from all over the country and it's just amazing. We will send a follow-up email immediately after this with links to the audio as well as some of the resources mentioned. Because you registered and participated in this webinar, you'll also be added to our email list. I want to thank Jason and Josh and Christine for the effort that they're leading in Chicago, which is really a model for those of you in states around the country. And so thank you guys so much. I don't know, again, with the lag, if there's any, I'll just stop talking for a second, and Josh and Christine or Jason, if there's anything that you want to say to this community before we go.
All right, well, I mean, I wanted to say, use your friendships and use your existing strength to collaborate and raise your voice. I think we got to be real loud right now. There's a lot of people out there who are have their bullhorns already out, and I think collectively we can make an impact, and we can basically save what we've been working for, you know, our whole lives. So let's do it together.
Thank you. Yeah, absolutely. So thank you for joining us. And Claire, are you still with us? Anything you want to say to this community before we?
Just to reiterate that, you know, we are here for you, we are a resource for you, and as Tricia said, we'll be doing everything in our power to harness our voice and our platform to ensure that the position of this community is represented. And I just say, you know, please stay connected and stay safe.
Yeah, thank you all so very much. Again, continued apologies for the audio, but so glad that so many of you stuck with us, and look for more follow-up from us in the next couple of days, today and in the days coming future. Thank you so much. Stay safe.